My name is Elra Vaughn. I am 55 years old, and for most of my career, I believed that patience was power. That morning, I learned it was also a weapon. The boardroom lights were merciless, too bright, too white as I pushed open the glass door without knocking. The meeting had already begun. Royce Talcott stood in front of the screen, his favorite spotlight glinting off his tailored suit. He was in mid-sentence when the room froze. The only sound was the soft click of the door locking behind me. "Good morning," I said. My voice carried cleanly through the air-conditioned stillness. Sabine Arlo followed me in, briefcase in hand, expression unreadable. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. She began laying thick, sealed folders in front of every shareholder, her movements methodical, deliberate. On the front page, stamped in heavy black ink, it read, 92% voting control transfer executed. For 2 seconds. No one understood. Then Royce laughed a shallow, confused sound. "Elra, this meeting is restricted. You were fired." "Yes," I said quietly, "and that was the last decision you ever made." The air cracked. A few shareholders exchanged glances, papers trembling in their hands. Royce's smirk faltered. "You can't walk in here, and I'm not walking in," I interrupted. "I'm taking back what you borrowed." He reached for the document, eyes darting across the notarized lines. His voice dropped. This can't be real." "It's real," Sabine replied, tone crisp, effective the moment you terminated her contract. Dr. Solomon Ann's estate clause, fully executed. The color left his face. Sweat beaded at his temple. For the first time since he took this company, Royce Talcott had no script. "You said I wouldn't have a place at this meeting," I told him. "Turns out, it's yours that doesn't exist anymore." He tried to speak. No sound came out. The room held its breath, one collective pause before everything changed. Outside, the wind pressed against the glass, whispering like the world itself was listening. That was the moment power stopped performing and started speaking. 2 days earlier, 2 days before the meeting, I was in my kitchen, halfway through a cup of black coffee gone cold, when the doorbell rang. The courier handed me a thick envelope sealed in dark red wax. My name, Elra Vaughn, was written in Solomon's unmistakable handwriting, even though he'd been dead for nearly 3 years. I sat at the table for a long moment, staring at the seal. When I finally broke it, the wax cracked like a small gunshot. Inside were 2 papers and a single sentence that changed everything. I read it aloud. "If Elra Vaughn is ever terminated without cause, full controlling shares, 92% transfer to her name. Effective immediately." I could almost hear Solomon's voice as I traced the ink. "You'll stay quiet too long, Elra. They'll mistake your silence for surrender." The phone buzzed before I could breathe it all in. Sabine Arlo's name flashed on the screen. "You got it," she said, without preamble. "Yes," I whispered. "It's real. Then, listen carefully. This clause was meant to protect the mission, not the ego. If they remove you, they surrender control. It only activates if the termination is unjustified. You can't provoke it directly, but you can let them." Her tone was clinical, but her eyes when I met them later at her office weren't. She slid the notarized addendum toward me, her manicure tapping once against the paper. "They're preparing to restructure," she said. "He's setting you up for removal." "Royce," I murmured. The name tasted like ash. She nodded. "If you fight him now, the clause stays dormant, but if he fires you without cause, you own the company by law." I leaned back, every muscle tight, every breath measured. Sabine studied me. "So, what do you want to do?" I folded the letter carefully, pressed the crease flat with my thumb. "Nothing," I said. "I'll let him do what he does best." "And what's that?" she asked. I met her gaze. Overestimate himself. Outside, the light dimmed as the first storm clouds rolled in right on schedule. Royce called me into his office the next morning. His assistant's tone was polite but empty. the kind of practiced civility that smelled like finality. I walked in, already knowing what this was. Royce stood behind his desk, one hand in his pocket, the other gesturing toward the view of Palo Alto like he owned the skyline. "Elra," he said warmly. "Thank you for coming on short notice." His office was a showroom curated plants, backlit awards, glass walls that made everything look transparent and nothing feel real. I sat without being asked. He smiled, rehearsed and gleaming. "You've been with us from the beginning, haven't you? The company owes a lot to your groundwork, truly." There it was, the eulogy before the execution. "I'll skip the nostalgia," I said quietly. "Say what you came to say." He blinked, feigning hurt. "You know me better than that." Then, with the soft gravity of someone unveiling art, he laid a thin folder on the desk. "We're restructuring. The board wants a new face, someone dynamic, public-facing, better aligned with our vision. You're brilliant, Elra, but too quiet." I finished. His grin widened. "Exactly. You understand perfectly." He slid the folder toward me. Inside, termination paperwork, severance figures printed like sympathy. "Don't take it personally," he said. "You'll have time to rest, maybe even consult. And there's really no need to attend the shareholders meeting next week. There won't be a place for you there anyway." His words hung in the air like perfume. Sweet, false, deliberate. I picked up the pen, uncapped it, and signed my name with one slow stroke. The sound of the tip scraping the paper was the only truth in the room. Royce leaned back. "You're taking this well." I set the pen down. "You should keep that," I said. "You'll need it soon." He laughed, uncertain, still with the riddles. "Elra." I stood, smoothing my coat. Not riddles, documentation. When I walked out, I saw my reflection in the glass wall, small, calm, and entirely in control. The trap had already closed. He just didn't hear it yet. The lab was too quiet that evening. Most of the staff had gone home, leaving only the hum of machines and the steady pulse of cooling systems. I had learned to trust that sound. It meant stability. But when I stepped into the cryo wing, I heard something else. A low hiss, soft but wrong. I followed it to Unit 6. Frost had crept along the seam of the storage chamber, blooming like veins under glass. I touched the edge-cold bit into my fingertip. The temperature readings were fluctuating. Behind me, a voice said, "It's been doing that for a week." I turned. Tony stood near the doorway, a young tech barely out of college. His lab coat was wrinkled, his eyes red from too many double shifts. "Why wasn't this flagged?" I asked. He hesitated. "I did flag it. Twice." The alerts were closed as non-critical. By whom he swallowed. "Admin override. After the last budget round, they said cryo maintenance wasn't a priority. Marketing took the funds for Royce's summit in Tahoe." My throat tightened. "They redirected safety funds for a photo shoot." Tony nodded, jaw trembling. "I almost quit, but I need the hours. My brother's tuition." "Don't explain," I said softly. "You did your job." He looked at me like he didn't believe that anymore. When he left, I opened the system log. The warnings were there, time-stamped, legitimate. I filed a manual complaint under my credentials, attached the photos, and sent it to compliance. By morning, it was gone. No record, no ticket, no trace. I called Sabine. "They're not just cutting corners," I told her. "They're erasing evidence." "Stay quiet," she said. "We'll need everything intact when it breaks." Her tone wasn't alarm, it was precision. I looked back at the frost forming again on Unit 6. The metal shimmered like it was sweating through its own skin. The data wasn't lying, it was warning, and the silence around it had just turned criminal. That night, I couldn't sleep. The frost on Unit 6 stayed in my mind, spreading wider every time I blinked. I sat alone in the lab office, the glow of the monitors painting the glass walls a sterile blue. Every reflection felt like a ghost. I used to love this place, the hum of centrifuges, the smell of ethanol and machine oil, the rhythm of work that meant discovery. Back then, it wasn't a company, it was a promise. Data isn't decoration, Solomon used to say. He'd toss a faulty report into the trash and start again, no matter how late it was. If the numbers don't tell the truth, they tell nothing at all. I remembered our first lab, a rented warehouse off El Camino, second-hand centrifuges that rattled when they spun, computers older than some of our interns are now. Solomon slept on the floor some nights. His notes spread like wings around him. We had nothing, but we were building something real. One night, he caught me revising a funding report to make the graphs look cleaner. "You don't polish truth," he said, tearing the page in half. "You serve it." I hadn't forgotten. I had just gone quiet for too long. A movement outside the office broke my thoughts. A janitor paused, wiping fingerprints from the glass door. Behind him hung a wall of new corporate posters, Royce's slogans in white text over stock images: innovation, vision, disruption. Every one of them looked like a headstone. I closed the old lab photo I kept in my drawer, Solomon smiling, sleeves rolled up, face smudged with graphite. He'd hated cameras. He said real work didn't need an audience. My reflection caught in the window, sharp and unfamiliar. I realized I'd been protecting the wrong thing, the structure, not the soul. Silence had been my loyalty. Now it was my failure. I powered up my terminal, the screen flickering to life. It was time to start collecting the truth again, line by line, number by number. This time, I wouldn't hide it. Sabine's office smelled faintly of ink and cold air when I arrived. She was already at her desk, sleeves rolled up, her hair tied back like someone preparing for surgery. A single folder sat between us. "I know a team," she said, quiet, discreet. "They work with private labs when things go missing." "What kind of missing?" I asked. "The kind that's intentional." She dialed a number, spoke in clipped phrases, and hung up. "They'll start tonight." That night, the investigation began like a whisper. No subpoenas, no announcements, just encrypted drives moving between hands. Login histories copied before anyone noticed. Within days, the pattern surfaced: padded vendor invoices, duplicated grant applications, travel expenses labeled as stakeholder outreach that traced straight to Royce's calendar. By the end of the week, Sabine called me in. Her tone was sharp but calm. We found luxury hotel receipts in Aspen same week as the missing grant submission. $200,000 in lost funding, redirected for his summit. I leaned forward. "Any proof of internal edits?" She turned the laptop toward me. Email chains, digital signatures, metadata, Royce's initials everywhere. "He's bold," I said quietly. "He's careless." She corrected. Then came the real fracture: 3 deleted safety reports. The cryo malfunction Tony had filed was one of them. The others involved delayed medical shipments. Every omission had Royce's approval code embedded in the audit trail. Sabine slid the final file across the desk. "You wanted truth. This is it." I stared at the numbers until they blurred. The evidence wasn't explosive, it was clinical, surgical. Each line item another incision, each dollar traceable like blood under light. Sabine closed the laptop. "We'll let the facts speak." I nodded. That's the only language I trust. When I left her office, the city outside looked translucent glass, light, and pretense stacked high enough to touch the clouds. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small beneath it. I was holding the weight of something heavier than proof. I was holding consequence. The following morning, I met Sabine at her downtown office. The blinds were half drawn, the light thin and deliberate. She was on the phone when I entered, her tone clipped and professional. When she hung up, she didn't bother with greetings, she just opened a drawer and slid a document toward me. "The clause is active," she said. "It's filed, notarized, and logged with the corporate registrar. 92% of Solgen now sits under your name." I read the line. Once, then again. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like stillness before a storm. Does he know I asked? Not yet. He thinks he won. Sabine leaned back, studying me. We have 2 days until the shareholders meeting. You'll walk in as the majority owner, but I need you calm. Invisible until then. No emails, no calls. Let him believe he ended you. I nodded slowly. He'll announce his new leadership plan. He'll gloat. That's good, she said. Arrogance is documentation. We worked through the logistics witnesses, filing confirmations, timestamps. Every move was precise, every word measured. When the papers were signed, I sat for a moment in silence, the pen still warm in my hand. Solomon wrote this clause to protect the company, I said quietly. Not to punish anyone. Sabine's expression softened. You're not punishing him. Elra, you're restoring what was stolen. I exhaled, steady but low. Then let the numbers do it. No speeches. No spectacle. That's why Solomon trusted you, she replied. That night, I spread the files across my dining table grant records, travel receipts, deleted safety reports all lined in order, every detail cross-referenced and verified. The pattern formed like a blueprint, elegant in its precision. Outside, the wind scraped against the window. Inside, I could feel the machinery of consequence aligning. Gear by gear. 2 days. That was all it would take for the truth to rearrange an empire. Sabine's voice echoed in my mind as I closed the folder. Stay silent, she had said. I smiled faintly. Silence was exactly what I intended to use. The first ripple came the next morning. Sabine called before sunrise. He leaked a memo, she said flatly. Claims you're a disgruntled former employee attempting to sabotage the company. He's framing it as a precaution to delay the shareholder meeting. I pressed the phone to my ear, pulse steady. Delay for how long? Indefinite. She replied, but it won't hold. The registrar already stamped your ownership. Legally. He answers to you. Royce, of course, didn't know that. By noon, the company's internal channels were buzzing. A forwarded message appeared in my inbox subject line, pending investigation former staff conduct. My name was bolded like a warning. Someone had even attached an old photo of me, smiling beside Solomon, cropped to look like a relic. Sabine arrived at my apartment that afternoon with 2 copies of a legal injunction. We'll send this to the board directly, she said. The meeting proceeds by law. If Royce refuses, it becomes dereliction of duty. Good, I said quietly. Let him resist. She arched an eyebrow. You want him to push back? Yes, I said. He performs best under lights. Later that evening, as I walked through the parking lot toward my car, I heard his voice behind me. Elra. He was leaning against his silver sedan, tie loosened, smile lazy. Still hanging around, I thought you'd moved on. I did. I said, you just haven't noticed where... He laughed. Dismissive. You won't even get past the lobby on Thursday. Security knows your face. I stopped beside him. Calm. Then tell them to smile when they see me. He frowned. Why's that? Because by then, I said, unlocking my car, they'll be working for me. The look on his face shifted just a flicker, but it was enough. He still thought he was in control. He had no idea that the building he stood in front of already bore my signature in the registry. As I drove away, Sabine's earlier words echoed softly in my mind. 2 days. 2 days, and silence would finish what arrogance had started. The boardroom was full when I walked in. Royce was already performing hands raised, voice measured, slide deck glowing behind him. The words, vision, innovation, progress, rotated across the screen like a sermon. He didn't see me at first. Sabine opened the door just wide enough for us to step through, her briefcase tight in her hand. I waited until he clicked to his next slide before speaking. Royce, I said softly. The microphone on the table caught it. Every head turned. He blinked. Mid-word, his mouth hanging open for a second too long. Elra, it's a shareholder session. I interrupted. I believe I qualify. Sabine walked forward, her heels the only sound in the room. and began sliding folders across the table. Each landed with a soft thud, one after another audits, travel invoices, deleted safety logs, and the notarized transfer of ownership. Royce's laugh came out brittle. "This is absurd." "Not absurd," Sabine said evenly. "Executed. As of your termination, 92% of Sol Jin's controlling shares transferred to Dr. Elra Vaughn." For a moment, no one moved. The sound in the room changed air pulling inward, the silence dense and waiting. Royce's voice broke through, sharp and panicked. "You can't just walk in and hijack a meeting." "I'm not hijacking anything," I said. "I'm restoring it." He looked to the board, desperate for support, but they were reading page after page of his own signatures, invoices stamped, reports erased. The evidence did the talking. I didn't raise my voice. "The numbers are yours," I said quietly. "They'll speak louder than I ever could." Sabine handed out the voting slips. It didn't take long. Every hand lifted but his. The motion to remove Royce Talcott as chief executive officer passed without a word of protest. He stared at me, face pale, eyes hollow. "You'll regret this," he whispered. I gathered the papers, calm as ever. I doubt it. The room filled with silence again, then the sound of slow, deliberate applause. Truth had taken the floor. It didn't need permission to stay. Weeks passed before the building began to sound alive again. The fake enthusiasm was gone. What filled the halls now was something steadier, real laughter, the hum of machines doing what they were meant to do. Tony stood in front of me one morning, her new badge clipped neatly to her coat. "Operations Chief." She still looked surprised every time she read it. "You earned it," I told her. She nodded, voice low. "We fixed the cryo units. Unit 6 runs colder than it ever has. No frost, no leaks." "Good," I said. "Keep it that way." Fergus returned a week later. Grease under his nails, toolbox in hand, just like before. He didn't ask questions, he just got to work. That was how healing looked here. Quiet, repetitive, honest. I refused the corner office Royce used to love. The glass was too clean, the view too far from the work. Instead, I set my desk near the hangar doors, between the flight logs and the coffee station. From there, I could hear the engines warming up and the sound of people solving problems instead of selling them. One afternoon, Sabine stopped by. She carried no folders this time, only 2 cups of coffee. "The federal auditors wrapped up," she said. "They're reopening the grants Solomon founded. No penalties, clean slate." I smiled faintly. "And Royce?" She shrugged, making statements about creative differences. "It will fade." That was enough. Some endings didn't need noise. Through the open hangar doors, sunlight caught on the body of the new rescue drone, sleek. Silver, balanced, painted beneath its tail was Solomon's old call sign, the one he'd carved on our first prototype. "Ready for test flight," Tony called. "Go ahead," I said. The engines spun up, a low vibration that filled the air. As it lifted off, steady and sure, I felt something loosen inside me. I touched the frame of the window, watching it rise. "Your company became mine," I murmured. "And it still flies." Outside, the sky opened wide, and the sound of purpose carried farther than applause ever could.